Most of the time when we make a video on this channel and when I make a documentary, we always stay to facts, of course, and we always stay to our topic, but we like to throw in a little bit of humor and a little bit of lightheartedness into the mix. This time, you're not going to get that, because the gravitas of the topic that we're going to be talking about today and the emotion that this topic has behind it, I feel like it's just not appropriate to give this video that type of tone. So, what are we talking about today? Today, as you may have guessed from the title, we're going to be talking about the final solution and the Holocaust. Now, just before we get into this, I want to make one thing clear. If this is a topic that especially hits very close to home to you, or it's a topic that you feel uncomfortable talking about or listening to, or whatever reason you have for not really feeling comfortable like watching this video, whatever reason you have, like with every other video, I totally understand you clicking off this video, but especially this time, you have my full support and my full understanding if you don't want to watch this video. And as a disclaimer for the rest of you who decide to watch this video, this will be a very heavy topic, and this will not be a topic that I'm gonna take lightly, and this will be a very different video. That's all I'm gonna say. So get ready for a very emotion invested roller coaster, I guess, and a very heavy roller coaster. Let's get into it. So it's difficult to talk about this topic without talking about the people who kind of invented the Holocaust, and that would of course be Hitler and the Nazi Party in general. Hitler had a deep-rooted hate towards the Jews from a very early time. He was raised to hate the Jews, and he believed that the Jews were the reason why they lost the First World War, and he also believed that they were criminal scum.
I've heard too many stories of Jews and gypsies taking advantage.
I'm not a boy, Mother.
She has cancer of the breast.
It's a lie.
In this deep-rooted hate towards the Jews, he kept that around for all his life, basically. And he made that a very big topic of discussion once he took over the party that he was a part of and reformed it into the Nazi Party. They saw this sort of, say, a ladder, and at the very top of the ladder, there was the Aryan race. And that was what Hitler wanted. He wanted the Aryan race to basically take over the world and be basically the only race left. And the Aryan race, in his opinion, was blonde-haired, blue-eyed people, or blonde-haired and blue-eyed men. And then when we go down and down and down, there were all types of different people, and at the very bottom of the barrel, in his mind, and in the Nazis' mind, was the Jews. A conference in 1942 in January, where all of the high-ranking and high-level Nazi Party members and leaders came together and had this conference where they basically decided on the final solution, and they decided that it was time to make the Holocaust a thing and exterminate the Jews. So they were sent to these concentration camps, and there was a bunch of different concentration camps built, but probably the most famous, the three most famous, is Buchenwald, Dachau, and of course, probably the most famous, Auschwitz. Now, originally, at least Auschwitz Camp 1 wasn't actually a concentration camps. It was already there. It wasn't built by the Nazis. It was actually a military, basically where military personnel would live. We call it kasarmeja in Finnish. I'm not 100% sure on the term on English, but it's basically where soldiers, military personnel can sleep and live and stuff like that. But then once Hitler invaded Poland, he basically took over that area and made that into a concentration camp. Now, of course, you've heard of Auschwitz Camp 1, and that's the most famous camp. That's where you have Oliver McBride on top of the arch, and then that's where most of the workers lived and slept and stuff like that. But of course, there's Auschwitz-Birkenau as well, which is a different camp to Auschwitz Camp 1. And that was built by the Nazis because of they didn't have enough room in Auschwitz Camp 1 to keep all the prisoners. They had to get more space to keep all these captives. And the one who was put in charge of at least Auschwitz Camp 1, and I do believe also Birkenau and Auschwitz Camp 3, which was built next to this factory, was a man named Adolf Höss, and he was the main overseer of all this. Now, they didn't decide on the gas chamber straight away. They actually had a lot of trouble figuring out how to pull off this mass murder thing in the most effective and fastest way. They tried all kinds of different stuff. They had shooting walls and they shot them. They tried even blowing them up, which just sounds absolutely terrifying. But then they settled on gas chambers and Cyclone B gas, and that was the most effective way to get rid of a big group of people really fast. So the way it worked in Auschwitz, as far as the train coming in, getting off the train, going to the gas chambers or going to the work area, how it worked was the train came in with all the captives. The captives were loaded off and put into two lines. In one line were all the people who the Nazis or the SS deemed unsuited for work. So old people, children, women, whatever. If they were unsuitable for work, they were all put into one line. And then on the other line, you had all the young men and everybody who basically they saw that could work. They were all put into a separate line. All the people in the line that could work, so to speak, they all got these passport things or these books. Those books for them were basically like a second heart for them. It was the same value, because if you lost that booklet, because that was the only proof that you had that you were one of the workers, if you lost that booklet and somebody inspected you and wanted to see your booklet, if you didn't have that booklet, they didn't ask any questions. They just killed you right there or sent you to the gas chambers. Now, all of the people who couldn't work on the other side of the line, they were all sent to the gas chambers the same night. The way how that worked was they were sent to a room and they told them that they need to take a shower, and after that they're going to get fresh clothes. But the showers were not showers, they were gas chambers. And the type of gas that they used was a gas named Cyclone B gas. A fun little fact, the guy who invented Cyclone B gas, he actually won a Nobel Prize. The question is, how did all this end? Well, all of this ended in 1945. So the Red Army, the war is now in its turning phase. The Red Army is moving closer to Berlin, and that of course means that they're also moving closer to Poland, and where most of these concentration camps, including Auschwitz, is. And in order for the Nazis to hide the evidence, they just started destroying the gas chambers, and they actually, in Birkenau, you can actually see this huge gas chamber that was destroyed by the Germans, along with all the other ones that were there. But the thing is, it was such a big thing, and they didn't have enough time, so they just couldn't hide it. And so most of the Germans at the end decided to retreat and just leave everything as it was. So leave, that doesn't only mean everything that's there, but also the prisoners were all left there. And then the Red Army came in, and the Red Army finally released all of the captives. And that's basically how the Holocaust, at least in Auschwitz, ended. So in total, when all was said and done, over 2.7 million Jews were killed in the Holocaust. It wasn't just Jews who were in the Holocaust, by the way. There was a bunch of other different types of people, such as gays were there. And actually, I'm gonna put up on screen right now all the different types of people who were there in their corresponding colors, because the prisoners on their uniforms, they had like a patch, like a color patch on their uniform, which signaled to the guards or other workers that who they were. So you can see right here on the list all the people who were sent there and the corresponding colors for all those different types of people. Okay, so I'm about to head to the airport to get on a flight to Poland. Yeah, I don't know. Currently, I'm not really feeling that dreadful, I guess, about the whole experience, but I'm sure the dreading feeling is gonna come, so we'll see. Today's a day which I'll never forget. I'm sure about that. And it's a day which will resonate with me for the rest of my life. It is the day when we're gonna go to one of these death camps that the Nazis built to exterminate the Jews. And I'm very nervous, definitely very nervous. But as I'm a World War II history nerd and a history enthusiast, I'm looking forward to it, but also dreading it. And so we're gonna leave here in the next 2 hours, I would say, about, and go to Auschwitz and then Auschwitz-Birkenau. So yeah, anyway, we're about to leave, so hang along if you want to, but you know, not up to me. But I understand if this is a pretty hard topic for somebody to watch, so yeah, let's get to it then, I guess.
I'm going to be visiting Auschwitz.
The easiest way to get into the meditative state.
Bess went to Auschwitz-Birkenau concentration camp in 2012, and as somebody who had read a lot about the history of that place and had watched a lot of documentaries, it was something that I was dreading.
Don't judge the sounds. There are no, as it were, proper sounds or improper sounds, and it doesn't matter if somebody coughs or sneezes or drops something. It's all just sound.
Alright, so here we are at Auschwitz-Birkenau, and I'm just gonna real quick go through this. So here is where the trains would have came with all of the prisoners. And what happened here was they all came into a big group right here. They drug the rams up to the train cars, and then everybody went into a big group here. Then the Nazis, they basically divided them. So everybody who couldn't work, were crippled, old people, women, children, whatever, they all went on one side, and then everybody who could work, like young men and stuff like that, they went on the other side, and then all the crippled, all the ones on the side that can't work, they all went to the gas chambers the same day. And as we can see over there, you can see former gas chambers. They have all been burnt or destroyed because of the Red Army was coming this way, and the Nazis wanted to hide the evidence, but it was too big of a secret to hide, so that's what happened. And then there's the famous train station right over there. And then the buildings that are still standing, like over here, those are barracks. And then we can also see some guard towers, some little bit simpler guard towers. So yeah, this is Auschwitz-Birkenau for you. There's also a train card over there, so yeah. I thought it was important to take a bit of a deep dive into the head of the SS, Heinrich Himmler, because the SS were, of course, the people in charge of the concentration camps, and they were the main overseers of order in the concentration camps. So, to talk about the head of the SS is probably important, and that guy is Heinrich Himmler. Heinrich Himmler was born in Munich to a family of 3 children who he was the middle child of. There was a lot of big names in Heinrich's family, and one of the big names was Prince Heinrich of Bavaria, who is Heinrich Himmler's godfather. Himmler was never a well child. He had a lot of sicknesses, which led to him not really attending school much, but he made up for it by working very hard on the side, and he ended up being a very good student at the end. Now, once World War I broke out, he wanted to serve as an officer, and with his royal background, he thought that he could smooth talk him way into becoming an officer. And so he tried to join the Royal Navy, but they didn't accept him because his short-sightedness, because he needed glasses. So then he tried the army, and he was accepted into the army, and then he went to his officer training, but once he was done, the war was already over, so he wasn't able to serve in the First World War. So after the war was over, and as I already mentioned, Himmler didn't serve in the war, Heinrich was very annoyed at the fact that he wasn't able to serve in the First World War, so he started joining a bunch of paramilitary groups made up to fight against democracy and the Treaty of Versailles and communism. And he did that for a while. Then there was a bunch of other stuff that also happened, during that time. Like he started growing a interest in fascism. He started reading a lot of propaganda against Jews and stuff like that. Then he also got an agricultural degree and then started working in agriculture. So a lot of stuff happened until 1921 when he joined the Nationalist German Workers' Party, or the Nazi Party in short. So once Himmler joined the Nazi Party, he grew a liking to Hitler on an intellectual level, and he even took a part in the Beer Hall Putsch, which was basically a riot against the current German government and the Treaty of Versailles. But this riot failed, Hitler went to prison, and because of Himmler was a part of this, he was kicked out of his job in agriculture. And because he had no money coming in, he had to move back with his parents. During the time that Hitler was in prison, a man named Strausser took over the position that Hitler was on and basically tried to replace Hitler in the Nazi Party. And during this time, Himmler was able to rise up the ranks in the Nazi Party all the way up until Reichsfuhrer. Once Hitler came back though, he quickly pushed Strausser aside and regained his position in the party, and Himmler's loyalty switched right back to Hitler. Now, during this time, there was the SA and the SS, both paramilitary groups of the Nazi Party. But once the Night of the Long Knives came, and Hitler ordered the execution of all inner threats within the party, that including the general of the SA at the time, then after that, the SS was all that remained of a paramilitary group in the Nazi Party, and Himmler was the head of the SS at this point as Reichsfuhrer. Now, among the things that Himmler did, there's so many that I will not be able to count each and every one in this video, but I will touch on some of them. Now, first of all, he ordered the cleansing of the various towns and cities of Germany, and also all the places that they, during the war, got, so Poland and stuff like that, which basically meant that they went door to door, and everybody who they saw as inferiors, they sent off to the concentration camps or killed. But another thing that he did, he ordered the Procreation Act, which, in order to talk about that, we need to talk about the SS and the recruitment of SS soldiers in general. So, Hitler only wanted the purest race to be a part of the SS. So we already talked about the Aryan race, so he only wanted those men a part of the SS. So Himmler ordered that he wanted a picture of each and every recruit to the SS to make sure that they didn't have any sort of faults of impurity and things of that nature. And in order to be able to make the Aryan race bigger, he ordered the Procreation Act, which meant that every single SS member had to at least father one child. And if a woman refused an SS member's sexual desires, the woman would be charged with treason. So Heinrich Himmler's betrayal is a bit of a complicated one, but I'll try to explain it the best as I can. So it all started with the betrayal of Hitler. So Himmler started getting a bit worried and a bit scared and worried about the Allies' progression towards Germany. And because of they were getting closer to Germany, that also meant that they were getting closer to the concentration camps in Poland. So, in order to make him look a little bit better in the Allies' eyes, he started making deals and offers to the Allies behind Hitler's back. Like, he talked to a Swedish diplomat and was ready to give up the Western Front. And then he was also gonna give over control of the concentration camps over to the Red Cross. And all these things, he was doing all these sort of deals to make himself look a little bit better in the Allies' eyes. Slowly but surely, all of this leaked over to Hitler, and Hitler called this the worst betrayal in history. So Hitler ordered the arresting of Heinrich Himmler, but they never got around to it because just a few days later, Hitler committed suicide. So after the war was over in Europe, Himmler went undercover or went under a fake alias as just a normal German officer. So once he was arrested and brought into a POW camp, he was under this alias. But because of Himmler was a bit of a cocky individual, he accidentally slipped up who he truly was, which meant that Himmler was put under suicide watch and he had to strip completely naked to search him. Then after this, he was supposed to be interrogated by a Allied officer, but he had snuck a cyanide capsule between his teeth in his mouth, which before the interrogation he bit down on and he died.
To go to a place where the absolute worst things that humans have ever done to other humans was an honor.
Here's some of the guard towers. Right there's one. Further that way when you look, there's one. And yeah, there's a sign right here that says halt. So alright, so here's the ovens where they burnt the bodies afterwards. Yeah. There's 4 here, and those are that's where you put the bodies, and you just push that in. So I didn't want to film behind those gates because there's a lot of people and I didn't want to be disrespectful, but I did get a little bit of footage on my own, and yeah, that's where the death wall or the execution wall was, where they shot the prisoners. So yeah, that's something. That's definitely something.
So I hope you got something out of this video. It was a darker one and it was a heavier topic, but I thought it was important to talk about this because of history is something that we should never forget. Both because of it's important to remember it anyway, but also so that history doesn't repeat itself. And this is one part of history which is unlike a lot of things. And if something, this should be remembered. So I hope you learned something. I hope you got something out of this video. But apart from that, have a good rest of your day, and goodbye.